Have you ever found yourself in a situation where your emotions seem to be making the decisions for you? Maybe you've reacted in anger or joy and later realized that your actions weren't entirely rational, yet they felt right in the moment. You might have made a choice based on a gut feeling, a deep emotional pull, only to question yourself later. Was that the right decision? Or, on the flip side, have you ever felt disconnected from your feelings, relying purely on logic and reasoning to guide your actions, even when it felt like something was missing, like a deeper connection to your inner self? At some point, we all encounter moments when we must decide whether to follow our hearts or our minds. But what if the answer isn't so clear-cut? What if the real challenge is in understanding how these two forces, emotional and logical thinking, interact and shape the way we navigate our lives? In this exploration of emotional thinking, we will dive deep into the science of emotion and logic, the role each plays in our decision-making processes, and how they influence everything from relationships to career choices to our overall sense of fulfillment. More importantly, we'll explore how you can begin to balance your emotional and logical thinking to make more conscious decisions that are aligned with your true self. Emotions are often seen as something irrational, something to be overcome with logic. But the truth is, emotions are powerful guides. Emotional thinking often leads to intuitive actions and decisions. And while it can sometimes be impulsive or dramatic, it is also a source of deep wisdom. When we allow ourselves to feel, to connect with the emotional pulse within, we are tapping into a fundamental part of what makes us human. Think about it. When you experience joy, love, excitement, or even fear, these emotions have an immediate impact on your behavior. Have you ever made a decision based on a strong feeling in your heart, like pursuing a passion, quitting a job that no longer fulfilled you, or choosing a relationship that felt right, despite the logical concerns? These decisions, guided by emotions, have the potential to bring us closer to our true selves. They reflect our desires, our fears, and our aspirations, everything that resonates deep within us. In moments of intense emotional clarity, we may find ourselves making choices that don't always make sense on paper, but they feel right at a soul level. When we let ourselves trust our emotional instincts, we align ourselves with something greater than logic can provide. Emotional thinking connects us to our values, to the things that matter most, and often leads us to make bold, transformative changes that bring us closer to fulfillment. On the other side of the spectrum is logical thinking, the process by which we weigh options, consider facts, and rely on reason to make decisions. It is the mind's attempt to rationalize and understand, to create order and predictability in a chaotic world. Logical thinking is often seen as the safe choice, the way we are taught to solve problems and approach challenges. In many aspects of life, logic is necessary. It helps us avoid unnecessary risks, assess dangers, and make informed choices. But does logical thinking always lead to the best outcomes? Is it possible to rely too heavily on logic and miss out on the deeper, more fulfilling paths that are emotionally driven? For example, many people are taught to prioritize logic when choosing a career, often opting for stability and security over pursuing their passions. Logical thinking might tell you that the safest route is to choose a conventional job that offers financial stability. But what if your heart yearns for something else? This is the great tension between emotional and logical thinking. While logic helps us make informed choices, emotional thinking connects us to a deeper sense of purpose, passion, and fulfillment. The danger is in relying too much on either side. When we suppress our emotions in favor of logic, we risk missing out on the things that bring us true joy and meaning. But when we act impulsively on emotions alone, we may overlook practical considerations and create unnecessary chaos in our lives. Both emotional and logical thinking are governed by different parts of the brain. The emotional part of the brain, known as the limbic system, is responsible for processing emotions such as fear, happiness, and sadness. The logical part, housed in the prefrontal cortex, is where decision-making, planning, and rational thinking occur. These two systems work in tandem, often competing for dominance depending on the situation. Studies show that when we experience strong emotions, the limbic system can overpower the logical thinking processes of the prefrontal cortex, leading us to make decisions based on immediate feelings, rather than long-term considerations. This is why we sometimes act impulsively or make choices that don't seem to make sense later on. The strength of the emotional response can overwhelm the logical processes that might otherwise keep us grounded. However, it's important to note that logic alone doesn't always lead to the best decisions either. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning and rational thought, can also be clouded by cognitive biases or overanalysis, leading to what is known as paralysis by analysis. This is when we get stuck in overthinking and are unable to take action, even though logic might dictate that we make a decision. In essence, both emotional and logical thinking are vital parts of who we are. They are tools that serve different purposes, but when used together, they can help us navigate life with more clarity, balance, and fulfillment. Understanding how these two systems work in harmony allows us to make decisions that are not only practical, but also meaningful. What happens when we fail to balance emotional and logical thinking? The consequences can be profound. When we suppress our emotions in favor of logic, we risk losing touch with our true selves. We may make decisions that are rational on the surface, but deep down, they don't resonate with us. This disconnection can lead to dissatisfaction, burnout, and a sense of unfulfillment. On the other hand, when we rely solely on emotional thinking, we risk acting impulsively without considering the long-term impact of our decisions. While emotions can guide us in making choices that are in alignment with our passions and desires, they can also cloud our judgment and lead to poor decisions if not tempered with logic and reason. For example, a person might feel deeply passionate about starting their own business but fail to plan and assess the financial risks involved. They might make an impulsive decision based on excitement and emotion, only to find themselves struggling to stay afloat financially. Conversely, someone who only follows logic might avoid pursuing their passion entirely, focusing solely on job security and financial stability. But in doing so, they may miss out on the deep sense of fulfillment that comes with doing what they love. So how do we find the balance between emotional and logical thinking? It starts with self-awareness. The first step is recognizing when you are leaning too heavily on one side. Are you making decisions purely based on logic, ignoring what feels right in your heart? Or are you acting impulsively, letting your emotions guide you without considering the long-term consequences? Once you are aware of these tendencies, you can begin to make conscious decisions about how to approach different situations. Here are some tips for balancing emotional and logical thinking. Listen to your emotions. Recognize the power of your emotions and allow them to guide you. When you feel a strong emotional pull towards something, take the time to reflect on what it means for you. What is your heart telling you? Is there a deeper desire or fear beneath the surface that you need to explore? Consider the facts. While emotions can provide valuable insight, it's important to balance them with logic. Take a step back and analyze the situation objectively. What are the facts? What are the potential risks and rewards? How does this decision align with your long-term goals? Take time to reflect. Avoid making snap decisions based solely on emotion or logic. Give yourself time to process both your feelings and the facts. When you allow yourself to pause, you create space for clarity and better decision-making. Trust yourself. At the end of the day, trust your inner guidance. You know yourself better than anyone else. Trust that by combining emotional awareness with logical reasoning, you can make choices that feel both right and practical. Take a moment to reflect on your recent decisions. Were they guided by your emotions, logic, or a combination of both? What can you do today to bring more balance into your decision-making process? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you found value in this discussion, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. In the next video, we'll continue exploring how emotional and logical thinking can work together to lead us to a more fulfilling, balanced life.